evening. My name is Minister Johnny Banks Sr. I'm Executive Director of A Knock at Midnight. I have Darius Ballinger, the Executive Director of Chasing 23. We just here again. It's always good to be on the show. Darius, thank you for being here.
Thank you, Minister.
And, there's a lot been going on in the city over the weekend. The violence is still at an uptick. I think like Saturday or something, it was multiple shootings in the space of 3 hours, probably 16, 17 people shot in a small period of time. And I think that the shooting and the violence is an effect, it's not a cause. Because people say, what caused the shooting? I say, well, no, the shooting is an effect of something. And Darius, when it comes to what the young people are struggling with, when it comes in terms to a self-identity, identifying with the community or identifying with a group, or they're dealing with their sexuality or dealing with their future or dealing with their education, it tends to lean toward, or tends to seem that a lot of the young people are struggling with these issues. They don't know how to deal with them, are not dealing with them at all. And since you're a relatively young man, how do you foresee what's going on, especially when we start talking about the young people, the third graders, sixth graders, ninth graders, 12th graders, those groups that seems to be struggling the most. They got to deal. What do you think is the causation? Because we see the effects. The effects is self-hate. The effects is violence. The effects is a lack of education. The effect is disunity. But what do you think the cause of that is?
The cause of it, one, which is the popular thing to point to, and I'm a jump on that, is the family, the breaking down of the family.
Okay.
And then the second thing is technology. Technology is leading the way. When you think of 3rd, 6th, 9th, and 12th grade, they're on the Facebook, they're online, and really, Doc, the internet is educating them. Okay. There is no one way to go. The school doesn't really teach you about yourself. At a young age, the church isn't the go-to. You don't think to go to the church. So if it's not the school, it's not the church, it's your peers.
Okay.
It's what you want to gravitate to. It's what you feel, what you believe. So we have young people that are really raising themselves, Doc. They're really raising themselves.
Okay, I can see that. You know, it's amazing how when you say raising ourselves, and you don't have the church to go to, you don't have the school as an option. So internet becomes an option. So now we got cyber families, and so these cyber families that have been created, that's predominantly, like you just said, impacting a lot of these young people's thoughts, a lot of their actions. How does that play out for the future, in your estimation, when you start dealing with that?
We have, I think if we continue to let the media raise a group, in particularly minorities, in particularly those that come from a family that don't have, what will happen is that group will start to water down. They'll start to spread wide because now they don't have a collective anything to grow to.
Okay.
The narrative it gets played so much. So if you growing up in a predominantly black community and your school doesn't teach you about the proud heritage of being African American, your church or your community organization doesn't teach you about the proud heritage of being African American, then mainstream media controls that.
Okay.
So now our young men, they don't know who Harold Washington is. They don't know who Philip A. Randolph is. They don't know about the rich black history of Chicago. They know Larry Hoover, Walter Wheat. They know that they're savages. So they buy into the narrative. So what happens is mainstream media is creating principles, and our young people are living lives through those principles. The media is creating the foundation. The media is creating those values. So if the media says that I'm a savage, I'm a killer, this what we do, then that's what our young people are growing up with, that same mentality. If our young men are growing up in a household with no men in their family are being talked about in a negative space, they go online, they see negative things, then now we start to see, and I'm not saying this is all of it, but now we start to see a confusion within sexuality. Well, I don't want to be what's not popular. I don't want to be what's not liked. I remember I saw this one picture on Facebook where the mother said, they had drawn it out. The mother said, I don't want a man. I don't need a man. That's what the mother said. The daughter said, I don't want a man. And then the young boy says, I don't want to be a man.
That's interesting.
The young generation is being educated, and I'm talking about from, not all of them, but I'm from the broken family in poverty, mainstream media, and their peers. Mainstream media and the peers is shaping the generation to come. And so
the mother says, I don't need a man.
I don't need him. I can do it all on my own.
The daughter says, I don't want him.
I don't want him because see what he did to my mama.
And the son says, I don't want to be one.
Because neither one of them like him.
Oh, that's profound, man. That's profound. That is interesting because it has to be a cycle that's repeated enough times to change the mindset. Because it's amazing. I mean, let me just go to an analogy for a minute. It's I don't know if you've ever been in a tornado or a hurricane or something like that, and you know that this tornado, this hurricane is coming. What generally happen? They will put an alert out to alert people that you need to go to safety or somewhere because this storm is approaching.
Right.
So they send out an emergency alert, a siren, whatever the case may be. Well, the human being has these biological clocks as well. And the human being knows that when something's not right, it sends out an alert. The problem is the human being has two alerts that's sent. One is internal, one is external. So when we are not right, because it's interesting you said what you said. When a mother is not right, there's an alert that's sent. So the alert says, not that I don't need a man, but I need a certain type of partner with me that can help me develop myself, help me develop my family, and help me develop my community. Okay, that's an alert. Well, when people are not taught how to even respond to the alert, then what happens is our internal clock gets off. And so what happened, one of the foremost signs of a clock that's not working, especially an internal clock, is when you deny the truth. You know that you're in a situation that's not good for you, but you deny it. And you deny it because of other factors that make it palatable for you. Like, for instance, there's no mother that can actually say she doesn't know her son is selling drugs. Or her daughter is engaged in some kind of... You can't say that. You know. Now, you choose not to deny it or not deal with that truth. But the internal clock is already telling you your child is in trouble. You know what I'm saying? So the child is in trouble. The internal clock says to help the child, but I'm in denial because the proceeds or the benefits of this young person doing this far outweighs me being a parent. Now that's truth. So now I have this internal breakdown. Now external breakdown shows up when people that's impacted by his or her behavior show up to tell you or to say to you, this person is engaged in these activities. Now your external alertness goes into lying. So one, you deny the truth here internally, then externally you become a liar. And you start saying, well, you know, my child or my family or whatever, we don't do that or we don't participate in that. We call that not snitching. I say, no, that is an external alert that has not been answered. That ain't called not snitching. That means a person has an internal problem, that's also an external problem, and to give you an even better example, of how we watch our children decay. And I hope the parents, adults are watching this and hearing what I'm finna say, because this is the truth. But I'll give it to you in a way that you can understand it. There's a man who has a job as a groundskeeper. His sole job is to work to keep the grounds of this building. This building has been there for years. Mm-hmm. The groundskeeper has never been inside the building, but the lawn is immaculate. Mm-hmm. Everything that is around this building is immaculate, because the groundskeeper has one purpose: to make sure that nobody breaks into the structure, mm-hmm. and nobody damages the structure, and that the outside is beautiful. Mm-hmm. That's it. And he gets paid or gets benefits from keeping a building mm-hmm. that he has never been in. Make sure that we don't go in it and take none out of it. Nobody bothers it, and the grounds are beautiful. Now, in spite of the fact that he has not been in the building, mm-hmm. in spite of the fact he can see from the outside that the building is in decay, mm-hmm. the building needs a roof. The building, that's not his job. Mm-hmm. That's how a lot of parents are dealing with their children. Mm-hmm. The child cannot function in this world. Has made some choices that takes him out of the mainstream of society immediately. Mm-hmm. But the parent, instead of becoming a support system, they become groundskeepers. Make sure they got on nice clothes. Make sure they keep their hair done. Mm-hmm. Make sure that everything around them is good except for their insides, because they've never been inside their own children. Mm-hmm. They can't tell you what's causing them problems. They can't tell you who their friends are. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of stuff they can't tell you. Mm-hmm. And this is the problem that we're having, and we call it community. I said, no, that is crazy.
Yep.
That is crazy. So there's one thing that we have to understand, is that when you start dealing with internal alertness, mm-hmm. The African-American community up until the 60s, mm-hmm. and this is something else people ought to come in contact with. Up until the 60s, African-American people were a moral people. I want y'all to hear me this. Hear me, please. We were a moral people. The foundations on everything we did was based on something as simple as right and wrong. We knew right and wrong, and we governed ourselves, we governed our family, we governed our community on right and wrong. If something happened in a community, the community would rise up and deal with it based on its rightness or its wrongness. Well, now, things have changed, because we went from a moral society into a conscious community. Now, think about this. We went from a moral society into a conscious community, and the consciousness is dictated by what community you're in. Mm. So if I'm in the community of church folks, we dealing with consciousness from one perspective. If I'm in the community of organized or organizations, we deal with it from another perspective. Mm-hmm. So now we got all of this fractured community that once was whole. Mm-hmm. You see what I'm saying? And everybody got different beliefs and different faiths, and we don't know whether to deal with this religion, or we don't know to deal with that sect. We don't know what mm-hmm. to do anymore. We become a fractured community. And the thing about it is, we can change that if we would just listen to the internal warning signs that are going off. Because any parent, you lay in the bed at night, that internal clock is ticking, but that internal awareness, or that internal alert, you can sense something ain't right when your children are not around you. Mm-hmm. No parent, I don't care where you are, I don't care how many times you see your child, you know something is not right. When they come into your home just to eat, mm-hmm. you know something is not right. Yeah. If they're under the influence of drugs and they've been smoking weed or whatever, you know something is not right. Mm-hmm. If your daughter is involved and in a relationship or not going to school or engaged with the wrong kind of females, as a parent, you know this. And the problem is, we keep trying to look for someone else instead of looking inside of ourselves. Yeah. For this simple thing called internal alerts. Yeah, we have a caller on the line. Caller, could you please be brief with your comment or question? Caller?
Yes, hi. Yes, my comment was based on the things that you were saying regarding the internal and external issues regarding the Black community. And I want to say I really wholeheartedly agree with you two's been saying. This is a great segment. And I wanted to expound that I personally feel like at 29 years old and having a child of my own that I feel like I am dealing with, and my community is dealing with, an old ideology of people, a group of people who feel that they paternalistically hold the key to someone else's timetable for freedom. And I personally feel that the issues, the internal issues within the Black community is also based on moral principle and the issues that we've dealt with being Black in the United States, that we have adopted a lot of traditions and moralities that have gotten my grandparents, our grandparents past us times. But the problem is that the fabric, the foundation was not strong because it was another ideology of who you are, where you come from, where you deserve to be, and what you should be doing. So when you have an ideology that stems from that, it's very difficult to see and to understand. You're going to kind of be searching for yourself. And I see that parallel between the two traditions. We have African or Nubian tradition, then we have Greek tradition. And when you went into Nubia, you went into these ancient lands.
Well, caller, listen. Let us respond to some of what you're saying. We have other callers on the line, but let us try to respond. You want to respond to what the caller just said?
First of all, I want to commend the caller, as she stated, for being a young mother, raising her child. I want to commend you on that. And I would like to offer a perspective as a young man who was raised by a single parent and understanding that we have to have a village. And that's what now that I'm learning, now that I'm listening, I understand that was the difference in the generations before versus the generations that I am a part of and that are under me. There is no village. The village has been destroyed. Though these principles that we speak of are only spoke of. They aren't taught how to actually implement. So the village has been destroyed. So now what happens is we have single parents who are working 2 jobs, going to school, trying to provide for them households. So it's only so much that they can do. So what we need is our village to stand up and to rally around these single mothers, a rally around these single parents, a rally around the vulnerable population within our community. We have to have an uprising of the village so that we can have a shared accountability. What's happening now is I'm okay and you bad.
Oh, right.
I'm fine. But so as long as my kid's good, my kids ain't hanging with your kids. But no. We have to take a step back and say, when we look at our community isn't divided. Our community is looked at as a whole. I think we have another caller, and I want to let the other caller get their voice out before we close out, Minister.
Okay. Caller, are you there? Hello, caller? Okay, well let's keep going because it's really interesting because I think we've overemphasized a lot of this stuff. Like you were talking about the media, right? And I was sitting there, and I'm sitting here rolling through my mind that when I was a young guy, Jet magazine was popular. I only wanted to see the centerfold.
Right.
I really didn't have any other interest in reading Jet magazine to see who got married or whatever the case may be. We had very few. The Chicago Defender was available to read. But Ebony was available. But there was no stream of consciousness. So now let's go backwards. We went from a moral reality to a consciousness. Now, today, we have mechanisms that we don't own. Now, see, you have to understand with media, we don't own any of the media.
Where are we getting our media from?
So where do we get our consciousness? You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So when a person embodies consciousness, they get no media. Because only certain people are recognized. Like, for instance, BET.
Mm-hmm.
All they do is videos, Martin, host other shows, the other black show, you know, you can go and look at Fatal Attraction and How My Girl Got Murdered. So you get a lot of foolishness, buffoonery. Probably one of the only conscious voices that I'm aware of is Roland Martin, who's on, I think, on TV One. But his stuff is short. So in a conscious society, what consciousness is the call of the day, what the media has allowed to happen is to make violence look conscious. So they've spin it so it looks conscious to be violent.
And what they've done, done, Minister, we as African Americans, the consciousness has been awoken to say, look at what your oppressor has done. Look at all of these hurtful things that have been done to you.
Right.
And then it invokes a spirit of anger in us, but then no one tells us how
To channel that anger.
How do you do that? So now I've invoked the spirit. Now I've invoked this anger in you, and now I've just left you isolated.
See, now here we go. Now this is learned behavior. Johnny Banks goes to church on Sunday, and Johnny Banks has a great emotional upheaval, not a spiritual upheaval, not a educated upheaval, not a repentant upheaval, but an emotional upheaval based on my sin, based on my situation, based on my circumstances. And when I leave the church, I still don't know how to deal with what I came in with. That's what you just said, but you just said it from another perspective.
Yep.
So our perspective is every time we need something to walk away with, we become emotional. Anger is an emotion. So the cage of emotions is always shaken up for us. And but emotions change. Emotions fall to the surface, and we find ourselves looking back wondering, why did we do what we did when we could have did something different?
You know what we got to watch out for now? The consciousness that's being raised around police brutality.
Dr. King says, nonviolent resistance to evil by force. That it has to be taught. You can't. That ain't something. Most people don't know what I just said. How do you resist evil without being forceful? Because the only thing that can kill that,
you don't compromise.
So here we go.
You stand on your ground.
And so our struggle continue to be this internal and external. This lack of morality, but this lack of consciousness. Because we're in a conscious time, but we're not a conscious people. Because we're not. Because, let me show you what I mean. The Chicago Public Schools just averted a strike. People sat down and worked out their differences. There was no violence. There was no name calling. It almost seemed like these people was on the same page for real for once in a long time. I commend them all. So if that kind of negotiation and if that kind of education and if that kind of purification of situation can occur on that level, why can't occur on the community level? Because there is no consciousness. It is. We talk about it. You see what I'm saying?
Yep.
Because nobody is listening to their internal alerts, nor are they paying attention to the external alerts. And the jails are not gonna get empty unless somebody hears the alert. The need for education in schools and the seats being filled, unless somebody hears the alert that in America, without an education, you might as well be dead. So we're not listening. We're not hearing it up, and it's really sad that we hear.
And it is. So as we wrap up, Minister, let's give the people something good to go forth with, something tangible. And our hope that you all reach out to us, visit us at a knock at midnight, and really get involved with this conversation, because this is something that goes on going outside of this 30 minutes. This is our opportunity to pass the information on to you, but we want to continue the conversation outside of this. So with anything encouraging, take ownership of your community. When you walk outside and you look outside and you see everything that's around, don't try to fix every single thing about it, but try to fix something about it.
Absolutely.
Please try to fix something about it.
Absolutely, and we entrust that you would have the courage to do so. Listen, we can be reached at 773-488-2960 at a knock at midnight. We're at 400 West 76th Street in Suite 206. Feel free to call myself or call Darius, and we're more than happy to have you come by, talk with us, and continue this conversation. But as always, remember that in the darkest hour, truth and knowledge are the way. Good evening, and God bless you.